Ladies and gentlemen, these are exciting times that we're living in right now. The Easter Bunny came to dinner on Sunday and dropped off a big bag of sweetness, this gooey surprise that he said, don't open till Easter Monday. And we opened it. It was full of wrestling goodness. A Monday Night Raw for the ages and a epic shoot interview that's on YouTube under the show The MMA Hour, conducted by always the professional Ariel Helwani. A lot of things were stated in that interview. A lot of things we already knew. A lot of things we told you.
There we go. I'm about to say. A lot of things people didn't know because they believed what they wanted to. You sound sort of echoed all of a sudden. As soon as we go live, it suddenly did it. Sort of like there's a hiss when you talk. I don't know why.
A hiss?
Yeah.
I was urinating while I was doing the intro.
No,
I'm sorry.
Serious. There's like a when you talk. I don't know. Look.
Why are we stopping the show for a hiss?
I'm just saying. Just want to make sure you're aware of it. And once you get mad, I just want to talk about this real quick. The nonsense going on with CM Punk since he got to AEW in the backstage.
Can you hang on for 1 second? Can you hang on for 1 second?
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Squared Circle Maniacs Pro Wrestling Podcast. My name is Johnny Bottles. To my right is Dr. Don Wayne. You know him from being the neckbeard psychologist. Right there on the tweeter, also known as X. Some people call it Twix. Some people just call it X. He's famous for a lot of his one-liners on Twitter. Too numerous to mention. I'm not going to go into it right now. Let's go into the CM Punk interview and tear it apart. We already knew a lot of this, Don. You and I knew a lot of this.
Well, we did our research. We did our research on this. We didn't believe what all the friends were saying about what was going on backstage.
Sure.
There's been the nonsense that's been going on backstage at AEW since CM Punk signed with the company had been nonstop. He had been in a couple of brawls at this point in time, or by this point in time, I should say. It's been rumored that he had to sign NDA because of his actions. It's been rumored that he couldn't talk about any of this stuff. It was rumored that, he punched out all the Bucks in a fit of rage because they came into his room. It was rumored he made Tony Khan scared for his life. That was a quote directly from Tony Khan in front of a building of fans. In one of his shows, I was scared for my life.
At Wembley.
At Wembley. So there's been a lot going on here and a lot of rumors and bullshit. I'm just going to say it, bullshit. And, the AEW diehards, guys, when I see a bad show or I see some shit going on backstage that I can tell somebody's lying about or they're feeding the narrative, it's not hard to figure out. Because in every one of these instances, CM Punk's been the bad guy, but nobody said a word about what actually happened. So you can't have it both ways. If he was such an asshole, why didn't they fire him after the first episode? I'm not saying he was completely guilt-free and did nothing wrong in how he handled after the show, right? Like, I think we can both agree that was not the best way to handle it the first time he got into a brawl. Having said that, he said, if you want to see me, come see me. Well, when they came and saw him, there were repercussions for that action. They got their ass kicked, and then they all got suspended. I come from an era and an age where if you're going to talk shit, be prepared to get a fat lip if there's something you want to say to somebody's face. Everything you say has a repercussion in life. If you want to talk to another grown man like he's a child or disrespect him, you might get popped in the face. And this is what happened. It's happened multiple times in this show. And before we get into this, the problem that I'm having is all of the AEW diehards screaming that CM Punk is a, quote, bully for his actions. Have you seen everyone screaming the bully narrative? I swear to God, this is what they're screaming over and over again. He's a bully. He shouldn't have done this.
Liar, bully, a fraud, frail, fragile, egotistical, you name it. You name it.
It's been a nonstop name-calling affair with all of them using their Dave Meltzer hotline to put out whatever narrative that they could put out to paint him in a bad light. It's been this way since he got there. They had even a little bit of confrontation backstage, right?
Of course.
It's been that way. It started with with butterfly cowboy pants, man, cutting a promo in the ring and going off script from what they had actually agreed on, right? So I want to talk about that because that's where it all started. By the way, thank you for liking and subscribing. We hit 550 this week. We really appreciate your support. We're trying to keep pushing that envelope. I mean, we keep pushing the goal. So if we can get to 600 by the end of the month of April, that'd be great. Like and subscribe. Anyway, going into the Cowboy Man, he cuts a promo on Punk that was not agreed upon. And he talked about this in his interview with Amani, right? He said, look, we had this whole thing laid out. I knew what he was going to say. And as soon as Adam Page went off course and went off kilter, he said, all right, what the hell's going on here? This has got nothing to do with what we're supposed to have an angle over right now. How am I going to trust this guy in the ring after this? And that's exactly what he said. And there have been other journalists that have said the same thing on their shows.
Right.
How can you expect him to trust him when you just went completely off the rails and did your own thing in front of a national audience, which, by the way, he mentioned in this interview, this was their first $1 million gate. This was the first one they were going to do. And if you remember that, correct? You remember this interview?
Absolutely, yes.
So that's what started it all. So now we've got a little bit of a problem because Adam Page falls in line with the Young Bucks and all that other crew. Like they're all buddy-buddy. They run on a buddy system in this company. They have the fall brawl all out. And that was the one part that got my attention because it was asked about in this interview. And he said he couldn't talk about it because of the NDA. There's an NDA on that one, but there's not one on the one we're going to talk about in a little bit. I would love to be a fly on the wall when that whole thing got out. Because before he started talking about the Jack Perry incident, I've got it right here. He said, I don't want to get into litigation again. Did you catch that part of the interview?
Yes. He said there's all these rumors about NDAs. There's a big difference between not being allowed to talk about some shit or just not wanting to talk about some shit. I don't necessarily want to litigate this again.
Which tells me he's had to talk to a lot of people behind the scenes. Doesn't that tell you? Like he's had to go over this a lot more than anybody realizes.
Right. Absolutely.
So he gets into this, and the whole reason I want to bring up the Jack Perry, because this is where it all went to shit. This is when he got fired. This is when everybody got into the shit. It turns out, and you had this theory months ago, and I'm going to give you credit for this, that they started AEW Collision for a CM Punk specific show. You were high on that. You said it's his show. This is absolutely the show that he's doing. This is the CM Punk, 2 hours of wrestling, and it felt different, and we both enjoyed it when it first started. Am I right there?
You're exactly right.
I enjoyed the show. I thought it was tremendous. It felt like an old school wrestling show to me. It felt old school Saturday night watching, WCW
Saturday night.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
That was telling to me because he said that after they had the big brawl, he said, just let me go. Just let me go. I don't want to be here anymore.
Right.
But Tony Khan would not let it happen. He's so hell-bent on keeping this guy that he's like, look, I'll give you your own show. And then he screws him because he says we're going to have two separate rosters, according to this interview. One roster for guys that you get along with and that want to wrestle, and one roster for guys that nobody else gets along with you. Right?
Right. The other camp.
Yeah.
Yes,
so why
the other anti-CM Punk camp.
So why the hell would they put Jack Perry on this show? Like, I can't get that in my mind why this happened.
He probably didn't realize Jack Perry had an issue with CM Punk. But Jack Perry is, he's best pals with the Young Bucks. He's fallen into that camp. So.
Anyway, there's a problem backstage, but this is even before then. When he hurt his tricep, it turns out. Like, I'm trying to keep this as confined as possible, but he's just coming back from when he had injured himself again. And he said he had to make his own appointments. Nobody called to check on the guy. No one called to see how he was doing. He felt like he was isolated from everybody in the company. He said this time around, same injury, other arm. With WWE, they're setting up his appointments. They got him on some physical activities to get his triceps performed. He says it's like night and day. Says it's insane the difference of what he's going through. Anyway, fast forward to where Jack Perry comes on his show, on the show CM Punk is running, on the reason Tony Khan kept him around. Why is he there? No one knows. Tony Schiavone comes up to Punk and says, "Hey, I need you to help me with Jack Perry." He's backstage. He's cussed out the Doc. He's cussed me out. He's cussing everybody out backstage because he wants to do this little angle that nobody wants him to do. It was shattering the glass in a rental car that he had. Because, as it turns out, Punk said, and I want to make sure I get this right, he said, these guys that are part of this Bucks camp wanted to show up, have a single match, film 3 segments, and then go home for 4 weeks, and then come back and do it all over again. And he said, no, that's not my show. My show, you're going to be here every week. We're going to do this show like a wrestling show. We're not doing that bullshit. So apparently they said it was fine. Jack Perry said, okay, no problem. We're not going to do this. And during this time, before Punk went to him, according to the interview, he told Tony Schiavone and he told Tony Khan, will you guys please get involved on this? Because if I get involved, you're not going to like the way that I handle this. He gave them fair warning. The first time was a warning. This time I'm just going to suck the guy and be done with it because I'm tired of dealing with the horse shit.
He said, Tony said, what do you want me to do? He said, I'm not telling you what to do. Just be the boss, please.
Yes.
The man wants everyone to love him.
Tony
Khan does. He wants to be everybody's pal. He doesn't want to be the bad guy. We've been saying this for months now. He does not want to be the bad guy. He wants to be the lovable owner that parties with the help, parties with his employees, drinks a little too much, does a little too much weed, coke, whatever, the drug of choice at these parties, and be everybody's pal. And you can't do that when you're running a business. Vince McMahon, in his later years, never did that.
No, just when he was young.
Just when he was young. You try to be a father figure to a lot of these people. We'll get into that later, the father figure thing. But, yeah, that's what he wanted to be.
Punk mentioned in this segment that Jack Perry didn't want to fly to Canada. That's why he was wanting to film this, so he didn't have to fly to Canada. And Punk was like, look, bro, nobody wants to fly to Canada. Our booking's all screwed up. The flights are delayed because there's weather. Nobody wants to go to Canada, but you're going to go to Canada because this is a show. We put on a weekly show. This isn't a pick and choose moment. So that sort of caught my attention. He said he politely told Perry, and Perry politely agreed. Then England comes around, and Punk goes to TK because we all know what happened when Jack Perry turned and talked about the glass of the camera. And this is what he said. Right. I went to Tony Khan and said, what do you want to do here? What are you going to do about this? And no, I'm sorry, he said, you have to do something about this, Tony, or I'm gonna. And Tony Khan said, and I got the quote here, what do you want me to do? So Tony Khan did nothing as he's wont to do. He is literally, we said it last week on the show. He's the guy that gets a new wrestling action figure every couple of months, and he wants to play with them and have no decisions for anybody else. Leave me alone. I don't have anything for you. This is what I'm going to do. TK does nothing. Perry comes back. Punk says, you got something to say to me. He says, do something about it. And he does. He puts him in a front face lock and chokes his ass out and makes sure he's not going to move again. And then over comes Samoa Joe and says, get off of him. He's done. He's done. That's not bullying, folks. That's standing up for yourself. If a grown man says to you, what are you going to do about it? Hands are going to fly. This is not a corporate environment. This isn't the office. It's not quite sports, but it's not quite not sports. That's why it's that weird dichotomy.
But what led to all of this, both incidents that he had. Now think about this. If you worked in a job, and your job, I'm not going to say what you do for a living, but at your job, if someone constantly told a whole bunch of crazy stories about you and leaked it out on the internet and ran you down behind your back, meanwhile shaking hands with you, laughing with you to your face, and it went on and on and on, all these crazy stories about you, and you had some sort of semblance of where it was coming from, but you couldn't believe it. And then you finally got some proof. You realize it's coming from these people. Wouldn't you, like, after a year's time, have so much of that built up inside of you, you can't take it anymore, and then you would finally have to lash out? And that's what he did at Brawl Out when he was in the media scrum, busted up, eating those muffins, and drinking that, what was that soda called?
I can't remember.
Some kind of lemon lime soda. It's a regional brand. He was drinking that, and then he went backstage, and the fight happened. And then all those bad feelings, they split the roster, and then Jack Perry comes along. He's had it up to here. Working, as he says, working with children. He's had it up to here. Can't take it anymore. And he was always the kind of guy in Ring of Honor, in TNA, and WWE where he stood up for himself. He didn't talk a whole bunch of shit to his face. Because if you did, he's going to reciprocate, talk, and say it right back to you. He was a take no prisoners, no nonsense kind of guy. You do anything in the world to help somebody out who wants to be helped. But this was just ridiculous, what he went through. All those crazy stories being leaked to Meltzer by the Young Bucks, by Kenny Omega, by Paige, and all their underlings.
We have said this from day one. We have actually dug into different stories, and I'm kind of proud of us for actually, going above and beyond for when we first started doing the show and all this shit was breaking down. Because we could sort of sniff the bullshit when we saw it, because whenever it was CM Punk being the bad guy, it was a source or from within a certain company. When Punk wasn't painted to be just the worst guy ever, it was multiple sources across multiple wrestling news platforms, across several different writers. It wasn't just the Dave Meltzers of the world. It was a bunch of different guys. And he said in this interview, look, he's had enough dealing with a lot of media. That's why he doesn't do interviews anymore, because they just make shit up about him and then never retract it and never apologize for it. And he made a reference in here. I don't know if you saw this or not, right? Where Akane said, so weren't you wrestling? Bill, sorry, yeah. He said, weren't you wrestling in front of like 100,000 people or something? He said, I don't know. You'd have to check the turnstiles.
Turnstile.
Was that not a direct shot at Dave Meltzer for his nonsense a few years ago when WrestleMania, when WrestleMania claimed to have like 80,000? He said, well, according to the turnstiles, only had this. So that came back to bite him in the ass, and that was perfect for me to see him take a shot back to go, hey, pal, there's two of us out here, and I'm not an idiot here. I'm not fighting, unintelligently. I watch your shit, and I see where you're full of shit. This is what we have been saying forever. The Bucks got mad because a true wrestling star came into the company, popped $1 million gate, routinely popped 1 million in viewership, and they could not handle the fact that his segments were the biggest in the company upon his return. He popped 1 million people on a Friday night. You and I have said from day one, he attracts an additional 300 to 400,000 fans routinely to either product. The proof was in the pudding last Monday night when he popped over 2 million. It went up 400,000. When he was on AEW, he was popping 300,000 and 400,000. They'd pop 1 million every time. You don't have to like CM Punk. And I'm not saying he's the most likable guy, and I've heard it can be prickly. I've also heard that it's just his personality. He doesn't mean anything by it. He wants to help you, but he's not just going to walk up and say, hey, you know what you're doing wrong? Like, you need to seek him out and say, hey, I'd like to get better. Tell me how to do it. That was something that really stood out to me in this entire interview process.
Absolutely. I mean, he's the kind of guy that sounds like he doesn't suffer fools gladly. He's got a bullshit detector that goes off. He doesn't want to, he tries to distance himself from all this. But, when you're Ariel Helwani and you're interviewing CM Punk, like I told a guy online this morning, you've got to ask him about this. Any journalist worth their salt would ask him, AEW, what the hell happened? And he's not going to pull a Tony Khan. I'd love to comment on that. But, Rampage has got a great card this Friday.
I was just glad to finally hear Punk's version of what happened officially instead of having to go by hearsay and what was reported and what somebody saw. Everything that you and I said that happened, it looks like it happened. Like everything we read that we were like, all right, this guy said this and this journalist said this and this one said that. The only one that I saw that was routinely saying, well, CM Punk caused the fight and just went crazy on him as soon as he came backstage. I never saw that outside of one dumbass Dave Meltzer and his crew. That's the only his ilk were the only ones that reporting that shit across the board. None of them.
They're an ilk, all right. They're an ilk.
So
They
I
are an
thought
elf.
that was probably the most telling part. I know people have been dying to talk about it. I know people were dying to hear his side of it. I know he said a couple of times, I don't want to get myself in trouble, right? That's what he kept saying. I don't want to get myself in trouble. And he didn't mean
Right.
like trouble legally. He just didn't want to get shit started on the internet again. So I thought that was really telling. The other part that got my attention was he talked about his WWE contract and how quickly that all came to be. And I'm not sure if you remember what he said about it, but it was done that week of Survivor Series. It was done that week. It got all finished that week. That is amazing to me that they put that deal together that fast.
He signed the contract that Saturday night and walked into Gorilla. And everybody looked at him like, what the hell? Because it was kept so secret.
Yes. The best part was they asked him, who knew about this? He said, there couldn't have been more than 3 or 4 people that knew I was walking through that curtain. Because when I walked in the building, they were like, oh my God. Because that con, WWE's con, said, well, if we don't get it done Saturday, we'll do it later. And he said, no. I've got leverage now because you're in Chicago. I'm not going to wait another week. Like, this either gets done now or
Saturday's got to be it. Saturday's the
Yeah.
day. He said, Saturday's the day. Did you catch the thing where Nick Khan was talking to him and said, when he first called him up, how long is your non-compete? Don't have a non-compete. Well, I wish I would have known that sooner.
Yeah. I'd have had your ass here way long time ago, like the next damn week, probably.
Right?
Like, okay, you
epic.
don't have one? That would have been totally, I mean, that people would have melted down. And before we keep going on, like he talked about when he came out, because usually they have music cues, and he talked about you've got a cue for your music and you've got a cue for this and that. And he said, it's a good thing I didn't have any music cues that night because I couldn't hear my own music. It was so loud in that building. He said, I couldn't hear anything but the crowd. I couldn't hear my music. I couldn't hear anything else. It was just the crowd and me. And it was such a moment that I'll never forget. So I was glad to hear this interview. Those were the 2 parts that really got my attention in this whole process. There was one other part too that he talked about, and he said it over and over again, because he was trying to dig in there and say, hey, when are you coming back? What about your wife? What about this? What are your plans at WrestleMania? And he kept saying, we give too much away as it is. I'm not giving this away. You're going to have to watch because we give too much away in this industry. And you and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago, correct? When we said it's time for the wrestlers to stop giving this shit away and make fans wait with anticipation again. They're all so damn busy trying to be elite for the sports aspect of it. It's ridiculous. Keep me in suspense.
Now with WWE, the way they do business is nothing's leaked out. Only the people who are on a need-to-know basis know what's going to happen, know who's coming in, any surprises, any celebrities, things like that. And, hey, it's great that way. Brings out the little kid in you when you're watching a pay-per-view. Holy crap! Holy crap! When somebody from another company walks through or a celebrity comes out. It's amazing.
It's
unlike the Meltzers of this world who have to throw everything in their newsletter and tell everybody what's going on. It's leaked out on Twitter. It's in their forum, on their message board, things like that. I can't believe Meltzer didn't manufacture a story. Lil Wayne's going to debut his new single at WrestleMania 40. He's going to be in a tag match with Jey Uso and Lil Wayne versus Bad Bunny and R-Truth.
Oh, it's
Diamond Dave Meltzer. Tuna Meltzer, as he's known now. Did you see the end of Raw? The sign? The last shot of Raw.
Yeah.
Tuna Meltzer. The Rock's holding up the weight belt. Roman Reigns is holding up the championship belt. Guys in the middle in the crowd holding a cardboard sign that says Tuna Meltzer.
And it was great. Was there anything else in this interview that really caught your attention that you were surprised at or that you didn't know about? Because those were the parts that really got my attention. I was anticipating finally being able to say, we were right. We listened to the right people. We read the right reports, and we were. And again, the AEW diehards, they just refuse to acknowledge that their favorite trampoline friends could have any wrongdoing in any of this. It's the damnedest thing I've ever seen. They refuse to say, you know what? Those guys might have been dicks at some point in time. They keep with the same narrative. It's all Punk. Everything that's gone wrong is because of Punk. We're down less than 800,000 viewers because of Punk. It's not because of Punk. You're being run by a man-child. You have a man-child in charge of your program.
Right. Coming up next on Disney Junior, Bluey and the Trampoline Friends.
After that, we're going to show a dog act. It's ridiculous.
Dog act. What kind of dog act?
Who knows? Right now,
Three
it's
dogs.
a Tony show. Oh,
Three-dog
on
night.
the side of the road.
Dog and Pony show.
3 dogs humping on the side of the road. That's what we're getting right now with AEW.
Three-way?
Fatal.
Canine three-way?
Yeah. So what did you have from the interview that caught your attention or that we didn't cover in this opening segment? Because I got shit on wrong.
He still will not bury the hatchet with Colt Cabana.
He's not
Colt
good,
Cabana.
dude.
He made an
He's
effort.
not
Colt
good.
Cabana made an effort to talk to him one night backstage. And he says, hey, we ever want to talk and, try to work things out? I don't think so. I'm not talking to you without a lawyer present.
Can you blame him?
Can't blame him.
I wouldn't talk
Not
to
in
the
that
guy
environment.
either. No. Well,
Not in that environment.
Dude,
Ooh.
I would never, ever talk to Colt Cabana again if I was him. That guy screwed him over, pretended to be his friend, and then tried to take him to the cleaners over some money. And it turns out that he was paying his legal bills the whole damn time. He was being a friend.
When he's fired, the next night, Colt Cabana comes in and has a match against Chris Jericho.
Yeah.
For one of the belts on TV, on Dynamite, on live TV. And then after that, you never saw him again. He was shuttled off the Ring of Honor. So how is that all CM Punk's fault? You know how many people they have on that roster that never see the light of day in front of a television camera? They just released 10 of them yesterday.
Well, I was going to talk about, hold on, because that's a great lead-in, right? After this interview, after this happened, and he called Tony Khan a feckless leader, specifically. He called him he wasn't a leader. He said he's a good guy. He's a nice guy. He's not a leader. He's not a leader of men. He didn't say that Tony Khan was the worst human being ever. He just said he's not a leader. He shouldn't be in this position. He should not be in the position of leading grown-ass men on $1 million wrestling product. He doesn't know what he's doing.
He doesn't know what he's doing. He thinks because he booked imaginary fantasy, it's like fantasy football for wrestling fans back in the early 2000s.
It really
they would book
is.
shows. They would book freaking shows and put it on message boards and forums.
Look at my notebook.
All over the
Look
internet.
what I made. Look at the match I made.
That kind of crap. That's what he would do. And then he had all the
Dumbasses.
figures probably. He went to all the indie events. And if you like that style of wrestling, indie wrestling, then AEW's for you. But it shouldn't be on television. It's a reason why Ring of Honor only drew 200 people to all their shows. 300. Maybe 600. Maybe 600. High Desert Ron with 999. Thank you, Ron. He he said almost signed in 2020.
Yeah, he almost signed with WWE. And in this whole thing,
2020.
CM Punk said he almost signed with them in 2020 and that he was this close to coming back. That he was on the verge of it. So, in my opinion, it's better off that he didn't come back. That's such a much better thing. I think it's been great for everybody because now you've got the he did talk about McMahon in here, and we should probably say something about that. But he said, he's pretty much disgusted by it, and he's glad he's gone. Like he's glad he's gone, and I get it. I'd be glad he's gone too.
Mm-hmm.
He has
put him in the basement, never to be seen again.
Look, and it's not just his allegations, because the allegations are heinous if he did this shit. But until they go to court, they're just that. They're just allegations.
Have you noticed there were new allegations that came out?
I did not.
The same day. Supposedly, she wrote him a bunch of love letters. And they were found and they were put out there on the internet. And now she's claiming that I was doing that under duress. He made me write him love letters.
Oh, dear God.
Some of them are 2 pages long. I mean, it's not like roses are red, violets are blue. Come over to my house. Any hole will do.
Okay, we're not doing that.
Nothing like that. You know what I mean? Nothing like that.
Yeah,
it was. I long for your touch. A lot of like stupid shit like that. Should be right.
And Ron, thank you, Ron, for being a longtime fan, brother. We always appreciate you being, watching the show. It means the world to us that you guys have been supporting us for this long. Please like and subscribe if you have not. We try to do this all the time. And Ron, I'll tell you, man, I'm really glad that he didn't come back, especially now that everything has come out. Like that was a real good point that he said that and he never came back. And now we're here and he's hurt again and it sucks. But it feels like the entire company now is in a better position to elevate talent around him to put them in storylines that are going to matter. Because let's face it, Vince McMahon was having the worst shit ever. I had quit watching for years at this point in time. They had a zombie match during this era that I said, I'm never watching this shit again. I had totally checked out on this shit, man. It was awful. But yeah, I mean, Punk talked about him being a father figure to a lot of guys in this company. And then, you find out your father allegedly shit on somebody's head. How do you recover from that? And look at the guy the same way ever again.
From what? The shitting on the head?
No,
or how do you recover
just being told. How do you emotionally recover? Be like, I can never look at, even if it's not true, the fact that it could have happened. Like, all of this shit could have happened. Even if it's not proven in court, the allegation is there forever. And there's been other allegations against Vince McMahon. So, I mean, I don't want to get into it. We covered this on the show a little while ago. So that was another part of it. You said something else. What else surprised you about what he said? CM Punk?
We covered it already. Vince being like a father figure.
Yes.
To him, he says, I already got a father. Yeah. I don't need a father. I already got a father.
I don't need it.
You're my boss. Right. The 10 names that were released from AEW.
That's all. That's
everyone made a big deal about. Everyone made a big deal about it.
But
Stu Grayson. Go ahead.
You can cover them. I don't give a shit who they are. Like, they were nobodies that I ever heard of. And I don't want to go down the names of these assholes. If you want to, put it in a freaking quick order. But here's my point. Tony Khan reacts to everything. He's never proactive. He's always reactive. He never makes the smart decision first. He waited until CM Punk had this interview and then said, I'll show you I'm a leader, and starts whacking names off the roster that nobody's ever heard of. To Tony Khan, that's being a leader. That he really believes it. Like, in his mind, I am 100% convinced that's what he believes being a leader is cutting names after someone rips you a new asshole. And I also
look at me. I'm a businessman. I'm a businessman. Look at me. Come on, guys. Let's go. I'm a businessman. Look at me. I can make a match.
That's what this felt like to me, Johnny, is once this happened, he felt like this was the only way he could reply to show it was his company. And it was
I'm busting to read these names out. It's all It's all the shits.
Go
ahead. The shits. Stu Grayson, who got fired once already. They didn't have his contract renewed. He went to TNA. He asked to come back. Tony hired him again, and now he fired him again. Anthony Henry, who is one half of the Workhorsemen, my favorite tag team, with JD B-Cup Drake as his tag team partner. Anthony Henry's hurt, and Tony fired him. And people were all distraught about that. He's hurt, and he got fired? That's Tony must have... That can't be. People were saying it can't be. Tony wouldn't do that.
Do you want to know
Dalton Castle's boys, the two guys who they look like Tongan houseboys, pool boys that come out to the ring with Dalton Castle in Ring of Honor. Those two guys got fired. Slim J, he was on TV maybe 3 times. He posted a diatribe on Twitter saying that he barely has enough money to survive. He's living in an S-hole with him and his wife and his kid. He wants to get him out of there. He's got to take on a second job. He said he worked a full-time job the whole time he was working for AEW.
You're what? You're
Jose
the guys
assistant.
I've never heard of. I've never heard of any of these guys.
How about Gravity? A guy who had
I remember that.
One of the many masked wrestlers who had a botch fest.
I remember him because he botched so damn bad. The only reason I remember that guy is because he was such a shitty wrestler. He was botchamania. Just everywhere he went, he was screwing some shit up.
Parker Boudreaux, who was Harlan in NXT. He was dubbed by many as the next Brock Lesnar. Well, they fired him from NXT because he didn't want to work out. And if you saw the guy without a shirt, you would know this guy never works out. Jora Joel.
Not a clue.
No, I have no idea who that is. And the former Dasha Fuentes from WWE, Dasha Correct, who's a ring announcer, I believe, for Collision or Rampage. She's gone. And she has some talent, I will say.
If she walked in here and said, I'm Dasha, I'd be like, get the hell out of my house. I don't know who you are. I have no idea who you are. You just named everyone I don't know on that roster except for the NASA guy, the astronaut dude. Gravity.
Gravity.
I remember him because he sucked and his outfit looked ridiculous when he came out. He looked
like he had a colander on his face.
It was the dumbest shit I ever saw in my life. just absolutely ignorant looking. So I got nothing else for this. Is there anything else? Like, that was the last bit of this piece of business I want to cover before we hit down some shows real quick and get to the meat of some other matters, because I'm going to shit on Raw.
Let's talk Raw. Let's go right to Raw.
Let's talk SmackDown. SmackDown was first. And there's not a whole lot to say about
so-so. It seemed like a placeholder show.
It has been a while now.
There was only one shiny nugget in the entire show, Don. You know what that was.
But hold on. We're going to get there, because I'm just going to give it a rundown real quick. Kevin Owens and Randy Orton against Pretty Deadly. That was pretty awful as soon as it started. Why do they insist on these types of tag teams in the WWE that are just weak as hell and don't work and are god-awful, and the whole gimmick is cringeworthy as shit?
They got a lot of heat when they were in NXT. That's all I can say. They were a good tag team in NXT. And now they're on the main roster. It seems like they're floundering.
They're looking for another Adrian Adonis and can't find it. That's what it feels like to me. That's what it feels like. They're looking for another Adrian Adonis, and they're going to make it if they can. It's just awful. These two guys look like they're Cabana boys on the Love Boat. These two dudes. It's just strange, very strange. But go ahead. Paul was at this match. That's what the whole thing was. It's setting up their three-way. That was cool that he came out of the ring and cracked Kevin Owens. Randy Orton was like, he's under the ring. I thought that was a pretty good segment. The Street Profits.
I just thought of this, Don. Hang on a second. I would send $50 to JD Drake if he would wrestle on Rampage in one of those Pretty Deadly shirts.
Dear God in heaven. What's wrong with you?
Just for shits and giggles. Go ahead, Don.
I'm going through the rest of this. Dakota Kai and Bianca Belair. This is the meat of the matter. We're going to leave it at that.
Yes.
We got a match with Jade Cargill out of this whole show. That's the biggest thing. That was the biggest announcement. This is what everybody's been waiting on. This is what everybody's been looking forward to, is getting this girl in the ring to see what she can do. When she pinned that girl and licked her head, I said, that's going to get some eyes. That's going to get some eyes. Girls out there pinning chicks and licking her hand. I'm like, that's it.
That's her finisher, and that was her finisher from AEW. So that was her patented move. I will say that I had thought that it was going to be Nia Jax versus Jade Cargill in an impromptu match at WrestleMania, and you said that that Jade Cargill could be the third wheel with Naomi and Bianca Belair against Damage Control. So kudos to you, my friend. You nailed that.
There was something out of this, though, that sort of got my attention that people started freaking out about. They're like, there goes the WWE being racist again, putting an all-black faction together because they don't want to put them with other people of color. And I was like, let me get this straight just real quick. You don't think having these three chicks in a faction together could get some eyes on the channel? They all look like $1 million, and you've got a problem with this because of the color of their skin. Who's the racist one here? Because I didn't even, under the old Vince McMahon, maybe in 1980. This is 2024.
Dude.
Right? This looks like a badass group to me. It looks awesome. It looks awesome.
It does. But I will say that WWE, even this year, they've got a track record of pairing up black wrestlers with other black wrestlers instead of having, what's wrong with having a white guy and a black guy? Or a white girl and a black girl, or two black girls and a white girl, or mix it up either way. Why don't they do that?
There's nothing wrong with it.
It's stereotypical in wrestling. It's a wrestling trope to have the black wrestlers together. Street Profits, Bobby Lashley. Okay?
No, I hear what you're saying.
Right. Naomi and Bianca Belair all of a sudden have to tag up instead of Liv Morgan. Could have been a spot to get Liv Morgan on the show.
No, we don't want that. No one wants that.
Well, I'm just using her as an example. I'm using her as a little white girl as an example. That's all.
No.
What about in NXT? They do the same thing in NXT.
Okay, so
black wrestlers paired up with other black wrestlers instead of.
I'm not saying there's not precedent. I'm saying I don't have a problem with this. I just don't. I don't have a problem with this. They all look great together. That's it. That's it. They look great together. That's all I'm going to say. I enjoyed it. I thought it was great. I'm glad we're going to get to see Bianca. We're going to see, all of them. I'm excited
looking forward
about
to
this
that new
match.
tag team. I'm looking forward to that new tag team of Omos and JD McDonough. I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, dear God. Lord have mercy.
Did you know that Omos had an eating contest today at 4:30 with versus Otis? It was on YouTube. It was on WWE.com also. My hand to God. Big E was the MC, the Master of Ceremonies. The New Day were the judges, I believe. And Omos had a Philly cheesesteak and pizza eating contest versus Otis from Alpha Academy. They're making good use of Omos.
I have no words for anything you just said. None. I did
look it up, pal. It was on Twitter.
I don't think I will. I will take you for your word. That's something my eyes never need to see. Ever. Here's the meat of the matter. Raw this week. Raw this week only drew 1.7 million people. But the demo was up like 31%, which makes no sense, but I'm going to break this down the best way I can. If you're not watching basketball right now, it's taking over, especially, believe it or not, the women's basketball is taking over. It makes very little sense to me that the demo would be up, but the overall normal fans wouldn't be up. And I'm not going to say that they weren't watching women's basketball, but I am going to say that women's basketball game had 12.5 million people watching it compared to 5.5 million the exact same time a year ago. So it's a weird little number where the basketball doubled in numbers. The demo went up 31%, and that shit happened. So weird deal. And I know baseball started too, but let's face it, baseball is so regionalized now that it's pretty much your team if you get the MLB package or whatever's on ESPN. And they don't do huge numbers compared to that. The show kicked off with The Rock. I don't want to get into all of this, but this feels very Southern wrestling to me, man. It feels very, very grassroots. I'm going to kick your ass. I'm going to insult you by calling you boy. I'm going to tell you I'm going to whoop your ass. It felt great to me. This whole opening segment felt like $1 million damn. Seth Rollins coming out of the stands saying, oh, no, you're not going to get a hold of me. I know what you guys are going to do. To hell with that. I'm not getting my ass kicked. I saw what you did to Cody Rhodes last week. I want to fight you, Rock. And for a minute, my dumb ass suspended all disbelief and thought, oh, really? I got excited.
Like everyone in the crowd. I did the same thing. I said, they're doing this on free television? What the hell?
I got excited like a fat kid around cake. I was like, oh, I'm going to see it. Hell no, you're not getting that shit. You should know better than that. The other part about this that got my attention was The Rock's playing to the crowd too much as a heel for my taste right now. He should be insulting the shit out of them, not leading off with he's leading off like a CEO would lead off as proud of his company, and he's taken too long to start insulting people in the crowd. That's just my opinion. Roman Reigns comes out and immediately just shits on everything, which I loved. Right? Like, I love that. So
absolutely. He's a heel. He's not there to make friends.
No.
No.
He's here to make money. And he's made a lot of it, apparently.
Yes, he has.
So that was the opening segment that caught my attention. The rest of the show was sort of blasey, but there was some shit in this show that I absolutely hate. And I want to run this down real quick.
I know where we're going with this.
The Sami Zayn, Chad Gable, ridiculous Rocky moment that they literally cut from Rocky 3 was the most cringeworthy shit I've seen in forever. This is when I hate this show. When they do cringeworthy shit like this, I despise this product.
But the production values and the way it was shot were top notch. Kevin Dunn couldn't have done that good of a job. And shooting. It's like a little mini movie right there in the middle of the show.
Okay. If I take a big hairy dump in the middle of a beautiful set, it's still a big hairy dump. This was a big hairy dump. It was
you're actually defecating hair in your dump. There's hair in your dump.
It was awful, and it literally pissed me off when I looked at my wife and said, I hate this shit. This is the shit that makes me so angry with WWE. It's so corny. It's so 1992. Why are we doing this nonsense? It's horrible. It's horrible. It's bad television all the way around. Just god awful. I wanted to break my remote. I was so angry at it. And then, which by the way, I'm not too convinced here that Chad Gable's not going to turn on Sami Zayn because you never actually saw him get his ass kicked. But Sami Zayn got his ass kicked outside the ring because Chad Gable had gotten worked over backstage, apparently. So whatever. I'm done with that.
Right.
So you like this god-awful segment. Is that what you're telling me?
I didn't say I liked it. I said it was shot very, very well.
Okay. But what did you actually think of the segment?
I thought it was one of the stupidest things I've seen in a long time. Chad Gable should be the guy who's got the match against Gunther at WrestleMania. Or at least they should have made it a three-way for the belt, but they probably didn't want to do another three-way for the Intercontinental Championship. That's why. But there's no compelling story here with Sami Zayn. I feel like we're being forced to like Sami Zayn. When Chad Gable came up through the whole thing organically, his daughter was crying in a crowd in the front row because Daddy was getting his ass beat by that big, awful Nazi. And, people invested in that. People were invested in Chad Gable. What else? What are you going to do with the guy now? What are you going to do with that guy now? What do you do with Chad Gable?
He's gotten himself over to the point that he's not getting any hotter right now unless you give him a big win.
Right.
Like he's gotten himself as hot as he's going to get. Has Sami Zayn meant any less right now in the past 2 years than he does right now?
No, he means nothing now. When he was in the Bloodline, when he was the court jester in the Bloodline. And then, did he really get behind Roman Reigns? That whole story added all that drama. Sami Zayn was an integral part of the Bloodline story.
He really was. He really was.
Year. And he really propelled them up to where they are now. He really did. It wasn't work rate or anything like that. It was the interaction he had. The
mic skills.
What's the word? The mic skills. The interaction he had, the mic skills, the entertainment value. Yes, they needed another guy like that in the Bloodline. It was too serious. Now they've got The Rock. So, also, I will point out that the WWE has signed Tama Tonga, the son of Haku,
the
son of Bang. Yes, that guy's employed right now by the WWE, and I would foresee him coming out at WrestleMania. That's when he's going to debut. Jacob Fatu, I can't confirm whether he's signed or not. I saw that he's another cousin of those guys. I saw where he signed and from one source, and then I haven't seen anything else. Even Meltzer doesn't know, or Sapp. Neither one of those two guys know. So they're really playing things close to the vest here in WWE land. But anyway, going back to what we were talking about, Sami Zayn is like
this guy. But I'll say this much: I don't think you see him debut at WrestleMania. I think you see Roman Reigns lose and goes away, and they say, we're forming a new bloodline. I'm the head of the table now, and it's either The Rock or somebody else now that he's lost. That's how I see it going. But we're going to get to our WrestleMania recap here later this week. I'm looking forward to talking about that show later, but that's neither here nor there. But I want to talk about
WrestleMania predictions we're going to do on Friday. Is that correct?
Either Friday or Thursday. We haven't decided yet because we got the watch along tomorrow. I'm going to sit here for an hour of this shit.
AEW watch along. AEW Dynamite. Can't wait to see it.
Oh, I can't. I have been putting this off like the plague because I'm pretty sure I'm going to break out in hives halfway through this shit box. God almighty. So anyway, we'll talk about that later. We'll see that tomorrow. The other part of this whole show that is driving me nuts. What the hell are they doing with the Judgment Day and these skits backstage that are just horse shit? They have a dartboard from here to the length of my arm away from them. And they have this awful segment where they're suddenly not communicating. This whole other faction comes in. The whole thing looked ridiculous. It's embarrassing as a fan, and it was stupid. And Dom's like, you guys want to play darts? He picks the darts off the board. He's like, I'll throw them from here. It was the dumbest shit. Why do they do these horrible segments?
There's two guys.
Bad.
There's two guys from the bloodline. Not from the bloodline. Shit. There's two guys from Legato are going to be in the ladder match, I believe, for the tag belts. They're having a ladder match for the tag team belts. Have you heard this stip? that they're doing. They're hanging both sets of belts above the ring. When one set of belts is claimed, those guys are the champs. And
that's what you heard, or that's what they've said? Because I haven't heard that.
That's what I heard. That's what they're going to do. And then the next set of belts are up for grabs. So they're using this match to split the tag belts. They're not going to be universal anymore. Oh, of course, let's say if one of the legatos grabs a tag belt, and then later on, he climbs back up and gets another tag belt, then they're unified again.
Hold on real quick. So we just booted somebody from the chat. If you guys see some shit like that going on, be sure to bring it to our attention. I just happened to catch it. We're having a show here. We're trying to talk. Don't bring that shit in here. I'll block your ass as soon as I can. Nonsense. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, they're using this as a vehicle to split the tag belts. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Judgment Day have one set and Legato has the other set after all is said and done.
I have not heard that, and I have not seen it, so I'll be interested if this happens, quite frankly. So we'll see what happens.
It came to me last night in a fever dream. When I did a little too much.
Do you want to talk about your fever dream last night? Because I'd love to talk about that. I didn't think so. I did not think so.
Go ahead, pal.
Holy shit. No. I'm going to keep that one. I
was drinking. I was sitting out on the deck and I had a little too much cerveza and a little too much of the ganja. And next thing I know, I woke up. It was dark out. It's 9 o'clock. I'm going.
Bitch fell asleep on his porch.
What the hell? What the hell's going on out here? I got a CM Punk interview I got to watch.
He passed out on his porch. Oh, that's the best shit I've heard all week.
Retirement living, pal.
I cannot hate. It made me laugh, though, to know that that's an actual option. That's an option when I retire. I don't think I'm going back in.
Goddamn right.
So
I think I'm going to go back in and watch CM Punk. And then I ate I had a box of those frozen White House makes sliders.
You had frozen sliders. Pizza rolls. You had frozen.
No. White House sliders. I'm all about them now.
Okay.
Cheeseburger sliders. Throw them in a microwave, drop them in a toaster oven. Either way, they're top notch. I had about 100 of those, and I feel good.
Oh, these fucking people. Hold on. Ban and delete. You people are out of your minds. Here comes the haters.
I don't even know what I'm saying.
Yeah, don't worry about it. It's just sad that these people come in here, man. They're pathetic.
We need a moderator. We need a nice moderator.
Yeah, I think that's what we're going to have to get to here in the next couple of weeks. So if anybody's interested in being our moderator, let us know. Mike could use your help here in the coming weeks. Because as the shows get more popular, these morons are coming out more and more. We appreciate everybody supporting us. Please like and subscribe. We really appreciate you guys. To close out Raw, before we get out of here, the Bloodline came out again and beat the shit out of both Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes and left them laying in the ring. Yes. And I knew it was a throwback match and a throwback ending because my wife got upset. She was like, stop beating on them. And I knew, I was like, it's getting over. If you have never watched wrestling from that era, this is making you feel uncomfortable at times. And I love it. So I'm here for it. I'm here for it, man. I love it.
In the back of the day when someone was getting beaten with a belt, the end of the belt would hit the mat.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, before it would hit the guy, it would make a hell of a noise. But not on Seth Rollins. They beat Seth Rollins like he owed him $100. They beat him like a government mule, like Jim Ross used to say. It was unbelievable.
There's an old way to describe it. I've heard it described from guys in the wrestling business back then. They beat his ass like he owed him transfer. And if you don't know what transfer is, it's transportation money. I enjoyed the match. I enjoyed the show. I'm excited for WrestleMania. Johnny, I don't know about you.
They have a transfer up in Ocala once a year down here. That's not the kind of transfer you want to go to.
Okay, we're not going there. See?
One thing we didn't touch on. We didn't touch on the fact that Becky Lynch charged Rhea Ripley on the same show. Great. And I got the clip of it right here. Rhea Ripley's being interviewed by Ariel Helwani.
Oh, you got that one. Okay.
I got that one. And Becky Lynch charged in and threatened Rhea Ripley, and they had to get separated by some metrosexual-looking producers and guys with headsets and stop. Stop.
Guys that are clearly not in the business and don't know how to do this, right? Is what you're saying.
I got the clip right here. Let me hang on. A couple clicks and I'm right here, pal.
Oh no. See, I should have known. I should have known. What the hell is this, dude?
That's not Becky?
No.
I must have got the wrong clip. I'm sorry.
Yeah. You're not paying me enough to work at a fast food.
Oh, it's right there.
Okay.
It's right there.
You don't even have to wait. Oh, you don't want to wait till I know it. You got a target on your arm now. You got a target on your arm.
There's a drive-through manager right there.
Dude, could they have gotten any two guys that looked like they less know what they were doing?
We'll go to a break and then we'll come back. Let's go to a break.
Maybe you have to
Look
go
at
out.
the size of this little guy. Look
We'll
at this
refund your
little
money.
dude.
We'll refund your money for the chicken McNuggets.
You just want to talk about my daughter, think you can do whatever you want. You can't do whatever you want. You don't think that I'm the man? I'm the man. You're the man. You're the man. Show me you're the man.
Oh God, Johnny, you can take this down. It's hurting my ears. It's hurting my ears. This is why, as much as I like them, these are the two women that I like. They don't look. The Rock showed you how to do it, right? You're on social media, right?
Right.
Let it fly. Let all the words fly. You're not being censored. Drop the F-bombs. Do what you got to do to get over. That's the time and place to do it. So,
Absolutely.
That's all that I've got today. I'm excited for tomorrow. We're going to see how this goes. Please like and subscribe. Johnny, you got anything else? Or is it time to go home?
Only thing I've got is Matt Hardy and Jeff Hardy are making noise that they want to come back to WWE.
I saw that. Please don't let this happen.
Please don't let this happen. It's horrendous. It's horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. Here's the AEW Dynamite card for tomorrow. We're going to be doing a watch along, folks.
All right. What's that?
We're going to start at 8 o'clock. The show doesn't start till 8:03 because I need to see, how strong the Sheldon Cooper effect is at 8 o'clock leading into AEW Dynamite. A battle of the wills. Powerhouse Hobbs versus Will Ospreay. And they're both members of the same stable. The Don Callis family. Explain that to me. You've got the Samoa Joe and Swerve Strickland contract signing. That's going to be very, very WWE-ish. We've got Thunder Rosa versus Mariah May. I think that's going to be a good match. I really do. Daddy Ass is going to be in a solo match versus Jay White. I think that's going to be a good match. I really do. Chris Jericho calls out Hook for the 15th time. And then the Young Bucks versus Orange Cassidy and Trent Beretta, best friends. I'm so excited, I can hardly contain myself.
Okay. I'm going to go have a drink.
I think I'm going to have a drink too.
Oh my God.
You know who really like to go have a drink?
I do.
Until next week, Gordon Solie saying so long from the Sunshine State.